Most Americans believe that the U.S. economy is already in a recession, Michael Snyder reports. In your opinion, does it feel like we're in the middle of a recession right now? If you feel that way, you are definitely not alone. In fact, as you'll see below, most Americans believe that the U.S. is currently experiencing a recession. Large employers have been conducting mass layoffs from coast to coast. The cost of living crisis is absolutely crushing millions upon millions of working families, and the number of business bankruptcies has jumped by more than 40% in just 1 year. Considering all of the economic pain that we are witnessing all around us, it should not come as any surprise that 59% of Americans believe that the U.S. is currently in a recession. And yet 59% of Americans falsely believe that the U.S. is currently in a recession, according to a recent survey of 2,000 adults by a firm in June. Citing higher costs and difficulty making ends meet, most respondents say they think a recession started roughly 15 months ago, in March 2023, and could last until July 2025, a firm found. CNBC would like for us to believe that it's wrong for Americans to be thinking this way. Even though millions upon millions of Americans are deeply hurting, we're just supposed to pretend that everything is sunshine and lollipops. They can try to gaslight us all they want, but even the Federal Reserve is admitting that most of the population is running low on disposable cash. Middle and lower income Americans are running low on disposable cash and are on track to have less than they were on pace to have before the COVID pandemic disrupted the economy. A study by the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco found retailers such as Home Depot are extremely dependent on discretionary spending. And needless to say, discretionary spending is way down right now. And Home Depot is openly admitting that people are not spending as much on home improvement projects as they once did. Home Depot says consumers are feeling crummy about the economy, that they're dishing out less on major home renovation projects. The home improvement giant, a bellwether of consumer spending and housing market, lowered its sales expectations for the year. It said customers were spending less on home improvement projects, pressured by higher interest rates and concerns that the economy is getting worse. Home Depot's business is closely tied to the housing market, and high interest rates are putting a brake on housing turnover and consumer financing larger projects. When the economy is booming, Home Depot is usually swimming in cash. But when the economy is struggling, Home Depot really tends to struggle. To me, this is one of the clearest indications yet of where the economy is heading. Of course, this is not just discretionary spending that is down. At this point, many Americans cannot even afford the basics. In fact, one recent survey discovered that 39% of Americans have actually skipped meals just so that they can make their rent or mortgage payments. 39% of Americans say they skip meals to make housing payments, per a clever real estate survey. And among millennials, that figure rose to 44%. Among baby boomers, it was 20%. Wow, I had not seen that number before. This is just stunning. In a desperate attempt to make ends meet, millions upon millions of us are racking up enormous credit card balances, and lots of people are now falling behind. A growing number of borrowers are falling behind on their monthly credit card payments. Over the last year, roughly 9.1% of credit card balances transitioned into delinquency, New York Fed reported for the second quarter of 2024. And more middle-income households anticipate struggling with debt payments in the coming months. In particular, credit card accounts that were opened in 2021, 22, and 23 have particularly high rates of delinquency. Overall, delinquencies increased rapidly over the last few years because the credit cards originated in 2021, 22, and 23 have gone delinquent much more rapidly than credit cards originating in other years. About 8% of credit cards originating in 2016 became delinquent about 4 years after origination. Meanwhile, in 2021, Vintage researched an 8% delinquency rate just after 2 years, while the 2022 vintage reached 8% after less than 2 years, and 2023 had followed 2022 closely so far. Sadly, a lot more economic pain is on the way because I'm entirely convinced that the cost of living will continue to rise faster than paychecks do. One recent survey found that the high cost of living is one of the biggest reasons why so many of us consider living in large cities such as Washington, D.C., New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco to be undesirable. The company found that the nation's capital, for the second year running, is the one Americans feel the largest distaste for. And according to the findings, 33% of respondents said it is one of the top 5 worst cities in the country, up from 20% last year. 65% of the people said that a high cost of living makes a place undesirable, with New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco also ranking on the list of unfavorable places. But it is not just our large cities that are being absolutely hammered by the current economic climate. In some areas of the country, it literally looks like the next Great Depression has already hit. For decades, the U.S. experienced an extended period of time when the standard of living was extraordinarily high, but that was never enough. We always had to have more, and so we piled up the largest mountain of government debt in the history of the world, the largest mountain of corporate debt in the history of the world, and the largest mountain of consumer debt in the history of the world. And now those bubbles have started to burst, and as a result, our entire system is at risk. Economic conditions are not great now, but the truth is that what we are experiencing at this moment will be considered rip-roaring prosperity compared to what is eventually coming. This is by Michael Snyder on End of the American Dream. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. This is by Michael Snyder. About the author, Michael Snyder's extremely controversial new book entitled Chaos is available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. He's also written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including End Times, 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future of America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters. When you purchase any of Michael's books, you help to support the work he's doing. You can also get his articles by email as soon as he publishes them by subscribing to his Substack newsletter. Michael has published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream, and the Most Important News. And he always freely and happily allows others to republish those articles on their own websites. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, we strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. Please support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.